Hi, Katie. Welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. Thank you for coming. Hi, Jill. And hi, Alex. How are you all today?
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry, there's so many buttons to press before you can actually get in. Yes, I know you're recording. Click, click, click. I'm good, thank you. How are
I
you?
know all these things you have to do because I might be recording you secretly, Jill. And I'm not exactly sure what I'll be doing with this kind of recording, but there you go. All these things we have to do. I'm doing really well, Jill. How are you?
Yeah, better, much better. Every day is getting better. Now I've decided to cut gluten out of my diet. It's
Oh,
working.
yes.
Oh, how is that going?
Oh my goodness, I was having so many problems. I didn't know they were all disassociated, but I've now had 3 weeks illness free. There's been nothing wrong with me. I've got a bit of a cricked neck, but I think that's to do with the position I was sleeping in last
Yeah,
night.
I don't think that's got to do.
No.
I like blaming gluten for a lot of things, but I don't think we can blame that.
No, exactly. But no, so many things. And I've spent the previous sort of 8, 9 months of not
Yes.
doing well. Literally, I had one day of not having any illness. And since I've stopped having the gluten, all of a sudden this whole new, oh yeah, I'm back to normal. So I'm
Just
feeling,
goes to show, doesn't it? A friend of mine that happened to them regarding lactose intolerance. They had no idea they were lactose intolerant until they gave up dairy, and it's like I feel alive again. It's amazing, you know. So, while we're waiting for to see how many people join us, um, if I can ask you to go into the chat, all of you, this isn't just a Jill, and go in and put in what you would like to gain from this session, because that would greatly help me. I do my best to, cover what the topic of the day is, but of course it can mean different things to different people. So I always tend to find there's someone who comes with a very left field view of something, and I think, oh, okay, that's interesting, and it just means hopefully I can cover it in the Q&A portion of the forum. And if it's a really big, juicy topic, I may even dedicate a whole forum meeting towards it. So yeah, if you can just go into the chat now, and I'm just gonna, we'll probably start around about 5 or 6 minutes past. We've got a couple of more minutes. So if you just want to go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from this session, that would really, really help me. Welcome, Alex. I hope you're doing well. Welcome, David. I hope you heard that. If you want, just go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from this.
Jill, reference your comment about being gluten-free and lactose-free. I'm lactose intolerant and I've been gluten-free for a couple of years now, and it is an absolute game changer.
wow. So is it the longer you keep off of it, the better? Because I was wondering whether I'd be able to maybe occasionally have a slice of bread, real bread.
Well, if I do have an occasional slice of bread, it is homemade sourdough that has got no preservatives in it.
Yeah.
Because I did read from somebody say it's not just about the gluten, which obviously could be the evil thing. It's about what's happened to the wheat, which is definitely my thing in the processing to create the product. So it could have been covered in pesticides or it's or genetically modified wheat,
Yes.
etc., etc., etc. So my friend who makes homemade sourdough out of ancient grains, I don't react to that.
Interesting.
As if somebody gives you a shop bought sourdough that's probably just as processed.
It could be the kinder bread, really, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Welcome, Harvey. Welcome, Clinton. Lovely to see you here. Okay, so let's get started. We might have a few more people joining us later, but I don't want to keep you guys too long because then I'm going to be late and I don't want to keep you for ages. So Katie says what she's looking for from this session is you want to learn how to get started about publishing a book or pamphlet regarding my business specialization. Excellent. Well, this should really help you. Okay. Jill, inspiration for the next book. Yes, you're already a published author, Jill. So you want inspiration for the next book. This will be interesting because you, as an author, you'll be able to give me some feedback regarding what I present and say, did you do it this way? Did you do it a completely
Probably
different way?
not.
Does my way sound better or worse?
Which is why I'm sitting here. I love, and in fact, when you advertised this on LinkedIn, there was something you said about, oh, I need to know that. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it was, but I know I need to be here today. So you'll be saying something that will be worthwhile. I know you will.
Excellent, excellent. David says I'm closing in on a book proposal. Oh, well done, David. Need to know what to do with it. Okay. the rest of you, if you just want to go into the chat and just put in what you'd like to gain from today's session, because that really helps me. It means I can make sure I cover it, or if I'm not able to cover it in the session, it gives me ideas for future forum meetings. So it's very, very helpful if I know what you're looking to gain from the session. So go into the chat if you haven't done so already. Okay, so let's get started. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so here we go. And I need to... Okay, so first of all, welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. We've got a couple of familiar faces and a couple of new faces, so welcome one and all. So the people who've been here before will know this, but we do have a couple of new faces in here. So the forum always has two parts. Okay, part one is we talk about the topic of the day. So today's topic is the 3 common mistakes most first-time authors make and how you can avoid them. And Jill will be able to tell me whether she did avoid them or not. So this will be interesting. Definitely. And then part 2, my favorite bit. This is where I take questions. So we can take questions on book planning, writing, and anything else. And that's why it's a forum. I do a lot of talking for a living. Annoyingly, I actually don't like talking, but I have to do a lot of talking for a living. And I would get very bored. It was just me for 45 minutes speaking. So please do get involved with part 2. That's where you can give feedback, you can ask your questions, and that's why I can tailor things to your particular circumstances. So definitely get involved with part 2, because that's where you get the most out of me, and I get the most out of the forum as well. Okay. And also, just for turning up today. I mean, if you want to scribble down notes, I can see Katie's already got her pen ready to scribble down. God, aren't you? Gold star from me there. Gold star from me, Katie. But you just saying, if you want to scribble things down, feel free to do so, but you don't have to. Because you've come here today, I'm going to send you a workbook that goes through all the details we'll discuss today. You'll get that via email tomorrow morning. My assistant normally sends it out about 9:30 in the morning UK time, so you should get it tomorrow, so you don't have to scribble anything down. And also please keep an eye out for the email tomorrow, because you'll get a link in there, and to thank you for coming to the forum, you can choose one of these amazing causes and we will donate on your behalf. Please do that. I'm amazed how many people come to the forum and then don't do it, and I'm like, you don't even have to pay for this. You just have to choose a cause and we donate for you. So please keep an eye out for this link, keep an eye out for the email, and please do pick one of these causes and we will donate on your behalf. Okay. So earlier this week, I did a poll and I asked, what's been the biggest mistake you see from amateur authors? And it was really interesting because it was quite split, as you can see. The winner, but not by a huge amount, the winner was disorganized structure, which I completely get. I think, Jill, didn't you post something about your ex-business partner and they sent you their book, and it was like a foray into his brain. It was just all over the place. And that's a problem. A lot of people do this kind of, especially first-time authors, they kind of just download their brain. And it's like, yes, your brain makes sense to you because it's your brain. To other human beings, they're going, what have you got from there to here? I don't understand. So that usually is a really big issue. Lack of clear focus, that's a bugbear of mine. I've read so many books where I've thought the front cover said, oh, this is what I'm going to get. And then they're all over the shop. And I'm like, why are you giving me all this other stuff that I don't need? Stick to the point. Stick to the thing that you've promised me on the front cover. Editing and proofreading issues, this is a major one. A lot of amateur authors kind of go, I'll just pay Grammarly and I'll just go through it myself and it'll be fine. And you're just going, there's a reason why there's editors out there that literally charge thousands of pounds or dollars. If all they did was what Grammarly can do, there'd be no such thing as editors anymore. So why do my editors charge me thousands of pounds to edit my clients' books? I wouldn't do that. I'd just hire an assistant and I'll get them to put the books through Grammarly. Editors do a far better job than Grammarly could ever do. So that's, as you can see, and I just wanted to give you a selection of a few of the things that people said. So just to give you an idea. So there's Ian who says, I can forgive the occasional typo, but if the structure is confusing, I'll stop reading it. Very, very true. Laura says it has to be lack of focus, at least to disorganized structure for me. I love her. She's got a way with words. It just feels like puke on a page otherwise. What a great way with words there. And then Joe says, when a book goes nowhere and just waffles on, the worst. Okay, so that's what we're trying to avoid. Well, we're actually trying to avoid all of these things, by the way. That's the main thing, seems to be disorganized structure and lack of clear focus. But really, even if it's your first book, you can get it to a standard that means you don't have any of those issues. Okay, so let me go through the 3 common mistakes. So first of all, insufficient planning. This is a big one. And it's no one's fault because no one tells you this unless you work with someone like me, I guess. And that is, and I didn't know this, by the way, that the very first time I wrote a book as a ghostwriter, a client of mine hired me back in 2015. I'm not sure why you wanted me to write this book because I've never written a book before. It took me 18 months to write the book. And I'm convinced that I would never finish the book if I was writing the book for me. It was awful. It was 18 months of hell. The only reason I finished the book is because he paid me a deposit, 50% up front and then 50% on completion, and I'd spent his deposits. I couldn't even give him a refund. So I'm stuck writing a book that I really, really didn't want to write. Looking back now, though, the best thing that ever happened to me was I wouldn't be doing what I do now. So it's really weird how life works. But at the time, I remember kicking myself that I'd spent his money on a lovely holiday in Phuket, Thailand, and that's where all of his money went. So I was kicking myself for not actually being sensible and putting the money into a bank account. But I didn't know this. Insufficient planning. A lot of people assume you need to figure out your chapters, then figure out the main points in your chapters, and off you go. You start writing. Worst way. Because what happens is, as soon as you start writing, new ideas come to the fore. But then that doesn't fit in with what you've just said. So now you're thinking, oh, I need to add this bit because this is really, really cool. This is really pertinent to this being a good book. So then you need to go and rewrite sections of it. Also, unless you've done a PhD or something like that, this will be the biggest document you will ever create. Most people don't realize that it's very difficult to keep track of 30, 40, 50,000 words that you've written over weeks, maybe even months. And that's the problem, insufficient planning. And this is what leads to scope creep. This is what leads to a disorganized structure. This is what Jill's ex-business partner, just literally, it was all over the place. He just downloaded his brain, and it makes sense to him, but doesn't make sense to anybody else. Yeah. Second thing, this might surprise you because a lot of people do this. A lot of people write instead of dictate. I like this picture. This is what I used Canva AI generator here. And I put in stuffy English professor. And this is the image it came up with. I was like, okay, so this is the AI's version of a stuffy English professor. But what I mean by that is a lot of people, when I speak to them like this, they're so lovely. They're so friendly and they're nice. And then as soon as they start typing, or if they're really old-fashioned, start writing, it's like they've swallowed an English professor. Suddenly there's this need to use these long words and long sentences and sound very academic. Maybe they feel like they need to because it's so important. I'm writing a book. Well, yes, it is important, but guess what? People respect your expertise. That doesn't mean they want you to speak down to them, because that's what it feels like when you start using long words and long sentences. You may be surprised to know that the average reading age for nonfiction, even when an adult is reading it, their age drops down to the comprehension of a 12 to 14-year-old. So it may surprise you. A lot of my clients are surprised because they always come back to me and say, but I'm not writing a book for teenagers, so why does my book have to be readable for a 12 to 14-year-old? It's like, I know your book isn't for teenagers, but the way people read nonfiction, which is usually at speed, scanning pages, their comprehension drops to 12 to 14. They will not appreciate you using long words and sounding like an English professor. And guess what people do? Instead of blaming themselves for for scanning pages, for not reading it properly, they blame you. They say you're a bad author. They say you're disorganized, you're confusing, you don't get to the point. Yeah. And the third mistake is writing and editing at the same time. So what I mean by that is, and I did this the very first time when I wrote a book, when I was ghostwriting back in 2015, I was typing. When you type, you will edit. You can't help it because it's right in front of you. You tell me if you, I mean, be absolutely honest with me. If you made a typo right now, or you tell me, you'll just be like, oh, I'll check it later. You will go, you'll press the delete button and you'll go back and you'll change it. And that kills momentum. So a lot of people are writing and editing at the same time. So those are the three key mistakes: insufficient planning, writing instead of dictating, and writing and editing at the same time. So you're thinking, okay, Mitali, thanks for that. How do I fix this? Because it's like, and this is, I'm probably going to do all of these. So how do I fix this? It's solved by the 3 stages of book writing. Okay, there's 3 stages of book writing. And anyone who knows me will know I love acronyms, I love alliteration, because I've got a brain like a sieve. I don't remember things. So therefore, if I can turn it into an acronym or alliteration in this case, then I remember it. So the 3 stages are plan, pen, perfect. Remember those: plan, pen, perfect. If you keep those in your mind, what you want to do is separate them. The power of separation. You want to separate planning from writing, which is pen, and you want to separate the pen writing from perfect. Lots of first-time authors, nearly all first-time authors actually, are doing all 3 at the same time. So let me demonstrate how they're doing that, then you can see how you can separate things. So this is one of my clients' mind maps. He's actually written 2 books with me now. This is the 2nd book. Maybe this now gives you an idea of the kind of plan you need. So if you thought that you just had to figure out your chapters and then figure out the main points in each chapter, maybe 4 or 5 points, and then that was it, that's now giving you an idea of how bad that planning idea was and how insufficient it was. Actually, in fact, oh, I've gone too far here. Let me go back here. Let me see if I can actually get his, because I can't. Oh, there it is. Perfect. That was easy. So if I actually show you the image, I should be able. There we go. So can you see this when I'm zooming in? This is a level of detail you need to plan. Okay. This is a level of detail. Just to give you an idea, this is a 68,000 word book. There's probably around about 400 or more entries on this mind map. This is the level of planning you need. And I would say don't even think about starting to write your book until you plan it to this kind of level. What Luke's done here is he's literally thought out everything that needs to go into a chapter. So he's figured out the sequence, he's figured out where he's got a planning on maybe citing a report, where he is quoting somebody, where he's going to add an infographic or an image. Everything is in here. And what this means is when you've done this, you have a bird's eye view of your book. Now you can think strategically. So now he can see where he's actually maybe accidentally repeated himself. He can actually see it and go, oh, hang on a minute, I'm repeating myself. Do I need to actually say the same thing here again? Or if he's missed something out, he'll be able to see it because he can actually read through the sequence and go, oh, hang on a minute, I was meant to say something here, but I've forgotten it. Let me see if I can add it in without disturbing anything else that's going on in that section. You can make strategic decisions that you literally can't do when you just start writing. When you just start writing, you'll do what I did back in 2015. New ideas pop in, but then it's like, oh, but now I need to rewrite this section to fit this section in. Now you've got to go back and rewrite sections. It's the most overwhelming thing to do. So this is the level of planning. Now, if you're thinking, well, how do I do this? This is done by a free software called mind42.com. I'll actually stick it into, can I get to the chat from here? Oh, no, I can't. For some reason, I can't. Oh, here we go. I can actually get to the chat here. So I'll put in mind42.com. Now, you can, I mean, this is a very standard, because it's a free software. As you can see, there's no bells and whistles here. You can't put in icons. You can't put in nice colored, you know, circles or squares or anything like that. If you're a very visual person, there are paid mind mapping software out there, so you can use some paid ones. But this works. I mean, I used it for my book. Most of my clients use it for their books. As you can see, it works, and it's completely free as well. So why would you not use it? Unless, like I said, you're a very visual person and you want to do things like color code things. Okay, but that gives you an idea. Let me just go back to my slides. That gives you an idea of the kind of level of planning. Okay. Think of when you're giving a speech. Some of you may have been on stage before. I know Jill has. Jill's done a fantastic TEDx recently. I recommend everyone go and watch it. But you will know if you've ever been on stage, you don't write your entire speech out, do you? And take it on stage with you, because you look like such an amateur. Not only that, you won't engage with your audience because you'll be looking down at your piece of paper or your cards, reading from it. So you would either have slides behind you, which will have bullet points, or you will memorize bullet points. And then what you will do is you'll expand on each bullet point. That's exactly what you need to do here. Can you see how Luke's done that? Luke was able to just expand on each point. That is a level of detail you need. So think about, if you're thinking, well, how much detail do I need? You know, that's the level of detail you need. If you can look at bullet points and you can expand on each, and you don't trip over your words, you're not thinking, I've lost my train of thought, then that is a level of planning that you need. Next stage, pen, dictate. Whatever you do, dictate. I've published 46 authors now. I've got 11 authors that I'm working with currently. Out of the 46 authors that I've published, only 2 defied me and decided to type it. And they took about 3 times as long. And they made more mistakes. So they ended up having to pay me more money. There you go. So the proof is in the pudding right there. So please dictate. Dictation is, it really is, once you figure it out how to do it, and I can show you how to do it, it really is a revelation. Okay, so I mean, I'm going to quickly go through the benefits of dictating, and hopefully I can convince you. Anyone's thinking, no, I really like typing, hopefully this will convince you. Number one, it helps you get your first draft done super quick. You get that dopamine hit. I'm amazed at how many people I speak to said, oh yeah, I've been writing my book. How long? Oh, it's been 8 months. And where are you? I finished a couple of chapters. And like, in 8 months, you've done it. It's soul draining. It really is. You need to get your first draft done super quick. When you dictate, first of all, you speak a lot faster than you can type. Even if you're typing at 60 or 70 words per minute, you speak around 200 words per minute. Okay, so you speak a lot faster. So that will mean you just get through it. And that's what you got to do. The first draft's got to come out of you very fast. After that, you can do reconnaissance missions and you can refine it. But you need to get that first draft out. That's because you get a huge dopamine hit. It's like, when I did it, the very first book I dictated, and I dictated it in a matter of, I think it was 2 days. I just got this, it's like, oh, it's done. I mean, yes, okay, I need to go back and refine it, of course, but the gist of it is done. The actual body of it is done. You get such a hit from it, and that really makes you want to get over the finish line and actually get this book done. It sounds like you. Remember this guy? You don't want to sound like him. He actually sounds like he looks really nice though, even though he's AI generated. He actually looks really friendly, but he looks stuffy. You don't want to sound like him. You want to sound like you. Remember, these books, if you're in my tribe, the reason you're thinking about writing a book isn't, you're not wanting to write fiction. You're not writing children's stories. You're not writing poetry. You're wanting to write a book that represents you. It's branding for you. It positions you as an expert and a thought leader, and you want it to be something that people can take away and implement and can make some kind of positive impact in the world. You've got to sound like somebody that people would like to hang out with. Who wants to do business with someone they don't like? No one. And when you dictate, you sound like you. There is no danger of you suddenly becoming a stuffy English professor. And the third reason, it stops you from editing. This is the big one. Remember, I was told you before, the power of separation. If you're typing and you have a typo, you will go back and change it. There's a word that it's just on the tip of your tongue, but you can't figure out what that word is. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to go to thesaurus.com and try and find that word. You're killing your momentum. Just use any word, whatever word, just use it. You can come back to it and find a better word later on. And when you dictate, it stops that from happening. By the way, that's also why I'm answering a question that a client gave me a couple of weeks ago. And he said, oh, well, instead of getting dictation service, I'll just use text to speech on Word. Because on Word, you can just you can just speak to it and it will type for you. And he says, oh, I'll just do that. And I said, oh, no. So if you're going to do that, what you need to do is you need to blank your screen so you can't see the words forming. Text to speech helps you with the first bit here, in that it gets your draft done super quick. In other words, because you speak faster than you type, but you can still see the words forming. So guess what? You're still going to go back and edit. If it does something wrong, if it misspells something or adds in punctuation that shouldn't be there, you will keep going back and editing it. So if you do use text to speech, I don't recommend it, but if you do, you've got to have the willpower to not look at your screen while you're dictating. If you start looking at your screen, it defeats the whole point of it. Okay, I recommend, the one I use is Otter. There are others, by the way. I'm not saying Otter's better than anyone else. It's just I've used them for years and I like them, so I've never moved. But the service that I use is otter.ai, and they're brilliant. You can just record yourself on Zoom like this, dictating, upload it to Otter, and it transcribes within minutes. Okay. So I hope you can see that this is the power of separation. When you think of the 3 stages of book writing: plan, pen, perfect, keep saying them in your mind and making sure you are only doing one. So when you're mind mapping, you are only in plan. You are not writing at all. If you start getting into mind mapping and you start writing out big paragraphs, remember, you're now falling into pen. You should only be in one phase or one stage at one time. So when you're mind mapping, you should only be focused on planning. Don't be expanding on anything, because now you're falling into writing. When you're writing, guess what? You should only be writing. And that means the best way to do it is dictating, because that way you can't fall into the next stage, which is editing. And then when you're in editing, that's great. Now you've got the entire book, you can go through it. This is the perfect stage. That is when you can go through it. Now you can crack out your thesaurus, you can go through Grammarly, you can check it and make sure it's grammatically correct, the punctuation is correct, you can add a style guide to it, you can do whatever you want, but you do that right at the end. Never start editing while you're writing. So I hope that's been helpful. So let me just come out of this. I can see there's been lots of things happening inside. Okay, so thoughts, questions, hit me with them. We're now into the second part of the forum. Tell me what your thoughts are. I'd love to know if you've used any of this. Has anyone dictated? Whether it's not a book or anything else, let me know. What are your thoughts?
So question. Mind mapping I love. I'm dyslexic, so mind mapping I find is the easiest way to get stuff out, and it's what I've done when I've been writing for other people in terms of, boring stuff like cybersecurity workshop stuff.
I'm sure it's interesting for somebody out there. So.
It is. It's all right, but it's very nerdy. But the dictation bit, I've done it before because I am dyslexic. So it was one of the things when I got told you're dyslexic, which is why I've been rubbish at writing, which has been my block at writing, because everybody has until I was 40 when I was actually, yes, you're dyslexic. So my confidence in writing is not good because of the spelling and the grammar and this, that, and the next thing. But when I have done dictation before, and I cannot remember how I did it, what's the best way or the best app that you use, because of overcoming your dialect, how you speak, that actually then takes the words that you are actually saying and not thinking you've said something random else because of your accent.
I have to say, Katie, I'm shocked that you asked me that, because you speak beautifully. That I don't really detect anything that AI wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you who I use. So I use otter.ai. Let me just get them up.
Yes, I've written that down.
So I'll put the link in the chat now, so you got it.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm a walking advert for Otter. I've been told there's lots of other transcription services now, all using AI, and they're all pretty good. The reason why I've stayed with Otter is, why not? When you're familiar with something and it does it well, why would I bother going anywhere else? And it's cheap as chips. It's $10, I think, in a month, and you get 1,200 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It's really reasonable. The costs are really reasonable, and I just kind of think, well, why not? But with Otter, just to give you an idea, I had one gentleman from I was going to say Czechoslovakia, but it's now Czech. Is it Chechnya now?
Yeah.
No.
These countries keep changing their names and confusing me. But yeah, former Czechoslovakia, and he had a very, very thick accent. He's my only client that I've had so far where Otter was, even then it still was doing quite well, but it was probably around about 60 to 70% accurate, which meant a good chunk of it was wrong. And it was taking us so long to go back and fix what was wrong. We just thought this is not working. And we ended up using a human transcription service called rev.com, which they are more expensive, of course, because a human being's doing it, but they are, you can tell them, you can say, okay, this is my issue. I've got this accent, I've got this speech impediment, and they usually are very good at finding a human who will be able to do it. So you do have another option, but I would say give Otter a go, because when I've just been listening to you, Katie, I was like, what is she talking about? She sounds perfect to me. I understood everything. So I just thought, I think you're over worrying. By the way, I was diagnosed with dyspraxia when I was 36. So I do know what it feels like to like be given a neurodivergent diagnosis later on in life, and you're thinking, why did somebody not tell me this earlier? It would have been,
it would have been really
so much easier, and we would have been so much kinder to ourselves as well. I remember thinking I was so thick that I kept crashing cars and I had no spatial awareness. I'm amazed I can stay upright on a treadmill and talk to you at the same time. This is a win for me. But honestly, I know what it feels like, but don't be, I think you're almost being too hard on yourself. You speak beautifully. Give Otter a go. They have a free version where you can test out, I think you get 30 minutes of transcription or something like that for free. Go and try it. And I'm pretty sure yours will be over 90% accurate. So I don't think you have to worry about it.
All right then, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? I'm just going to quickly scan through. Not planning. Also, Jill says not planning will make you lose the will to finish the book if you go wrong or don't. Yeah, it's very true. Even just, I've even had some clients say to me, Jill, that even just finishing their mind map gave them such a huge dopamine hit. They hadn't even started the book, but just the mind map, they're like, oh my God, it's actually out of my frigging brain. But not just out of my brain in like, you know, what Joe said before. She said, you know, puke on a page. You don't want puke on a page, but in a way that makes sense. You get such a dopamine hit. It's like, it's out of my head now, and it's in a structure that makes sense. That gives you a hit. And then when you dictate and you get through, just to give you an idea, Luke's book was 68,000 words. It took him 6 weeks to mind map the entire book out, which is about right, because you got to really concentrate. But then to dictate the first draft took him 13 hours in total. 68,000 words in 13 hours. That's not even fast. That's normal. And he got such a dopamine hit from doing that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the plan. I mean, I do mine all in colours, and it's on great big sheets, and it's all over the living room, and I get it done. And I go down to the sentence, and this is what I want to say. But my problem is the Otter AI thing, the dictating.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of trained myself not to go back, so I don't go back and edit, and I sit there writing. Because I have, like you, Mitali, so our brains work in a similar way. We've got so much to say.
Yep.
And even though I've done the plan, there's still a gazillion things I could have said that I think, well, no, because I don't want a 120,000 word book. I just want to. So I'm trying to keep it succinct.
Yeah.
Plan. But as I'm typing, I'm like, no, that would be perfect. I'm just going to add.
Let me ask you a question there. So what 2 stages do you think you've spread yourself into there?
Well, I can see the way you've put it out. It's beautiful. It's the plan and the the plan. Well, I don't know. It's a bit
no, you're actually, what you're doing is you've got 1 foot in pen, which is where you're writing, and 1 foot is editing, because cutting down is an editor's job. So no wonder you feel like you're doing the splits. You're actually.
That's how it feels, that I'm feeling I'm safe in that space, because as I'm writing, and I've done what I've said in the plan, but then I remember, oh, there's that bit, so I could go back and put it back into the plan. And then dictate. I mean, I guess it's just a different way of working, isn't it? It's just.
Well, I would say if you're coming up with good ideas when you've actually gone beyond plan and you're now in pen, it means you need to go back, literally stop. There's nothing wrong with going back a stage. The problem is when you start doing the splits, because you're in 2 stages at the same time. So if you suddenly think, oh, I've got some new great ideas that need to go into the book, you need to down tools, literally stop being in pen, go right back to plan, have a look at your mind map, see if it does, because sometimes you think something's a great idea, and then later you go, that was a crap idea. So I've done that as well with books. Like, you know, I thought this is a great idea, I've implemented it, and then later on that was a crap idea, and now I have to take it out and I'll rewrite it again. So I've made twice the amount, no, 3 times the amount of work for myself. So that's, there's nothing wrong with getting ideas when you're in the pen stage, but it means you move from the plan stage too quickly.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the warning sign. So
Yeah.
all you have to do is just there's nothing wrong with it, but just down tools and then go, I'm going to go back to my mind map. And you start seeing, where do these ideas fit in? Do they make sense? And then once you fit them in, then go back to pen. Yeah. So there's always, and then when you said that you wanted to be concise, so you don't want to create 120,000 word book. That's fine, but I guess what you're now doing, you've now got one foot in the perfect page. Yeah, because that's what editors do. Editors, one of the main things, and this is what Grammarly doesn't do. Grammarly is great for making sure your grammar's correct, for making sure, there's no typos and stuff like that. But a human editor, their main goal is, if you can say something in 10 words instead of 30, then we're going to say it in 10 words. Because people don't appreciate long books for the sake of long books.
No.
If your book has to be long because it's jam-packed with amazing content, then fair enough. But just because a book is long doesn't mean,
isn't it? When you've got so much you want to say, it's choosing the right thing.
Don't choose. So I would just say, get it out into your mind map first.
Yeah.
Don't worry about don't worry about a mind map being too big. My biggest worry with my clients is when they give me a mind map, it's too small. I never say it's too big. I've even had people give me mind maps of 600 or 700 aspects on them.
Yeah.
I've just been like, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter if it's too much. I'd rather, and speak to any editor you've ever known, Jill, they'd rather be given this many words that they need to cut down than this many words when they're going, oh my God, what do I do with this? I don't want to cut away too much because it's going to be a pamphlet now instead of a book, So it's much better to have too much and to whittle it down than to not have enough. Then you start getting into that really annoying stage that some authors get into when they start waffling. We've all felt it in books when you're just like, oh, you had a word count, didn't you? And you had to hit your word count. There's like, how many different ways are you going to tell me the same damn thing? It's frustrating. So you don't want to be in that stage. So don't worry about having too many words or the book being too big, because that will come out in the perfect page, stage, I should say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I will give Otter a try. Thank you.
Please do. And the other thing I was going to say with Otter, if you ever feel like, a lot of people say, oh, I can't dictate. And I always say, well, why? What is it about dictation that makes you feel that you can't dictate? I say, oh, well, I'll lose my train of thought. It's like, guess what that means? You didn't plan properly. It still means your planning was insufficient. Remember when I showed you that image of somebody on stage speaking? You have bullet points in your mind when you're speaking from memory, or if you've got slides behind you, you will have bullet points. You don't have the whole speech written out on the slide. You have bullet points, but you would have created those bullet points to have enough detail so that you can look at it and just expand on that. That's the level of detail your mind map needs to be in. If you can look at a chapter on your mind map and you can just expand each and that becomes a chapter, then you're good. If you get lost and you're thinking you lose your train of thought when you're dictating, that means you haven't put enough information in the mind map. It's literally as simple as that. Dictating is a bit like getting on stage and speaking. So how detailed do your bullet points need to be so that you can speak and you don't lose your train of thought and you don't die on stage? Which apparently is scarier than actual dying, apparently. It's true. Like, actually, more people are scared of dying on stage, as in, scared of public speaking, than actually physically dying. So.
Wow.
I know. Harvey, was there something, I think you asked something inside, looking to start writing a book soon? Yes. Did you have a question? Because I've got Jill saying, thanks for asking, Harvey. It's about making a better world through. Did I miss that? Have I missed a message in there somewhere?
What's your ideal size of a book? How many pages would you recommend?
I hate giving answers to this, Harvey. The reason why is as soon as I give people a word count page, then they feel like they have to reach it. Now, people who don't have enough to say, then we get to the dreaded waffle. And then people who've got a lot to say, but it's actually really interesting, they feel they need to cut out things. So I don't like giving, just to give you an idea, the sweet spot seems to be around about 30 to 40,000 words. pages don't make any sense to me, Harvey, because it depends on the size of your book. So
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to give you a number of pages, because give me the size of a book first. I have no idea. I can't give you that. But words, which is more finite, you're looking at 30 to 40,000 words. However, this is not something to beat yourself around the head with. If you've got something really important to say, and it's interesting, and it's giving value to people, and it's moving them to a specific goal, then it can be 50, 60, 70,000 words. Luke's book that I just showed you was 68,000 words. That's quite a big book.
Yeah.
And yet everything that he said was so valuable and exactly what his target audience needed to hear, that I was like, 68,000 words is fine. Now, if he was waffling, then absolutely I would have had the editor cut it down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So keep an eye on it, but don't see, again, we're now, can you see how you're putting one foot into perfect? You shouldn't be anywhere near perfect. You're in planning, lady. You shouldn't be anywhere near perfect. You shouldn't even be in pen. You're literally in plan. So that's all your focus should be, is on plan. Forget about perfect. Perfect comes right at the end, after you've written your first draft.
And is there an average time for writing a book?
Most of my clients write their book in about 12 weeks. So they plan and write in about 12 weeks, and they'll put in around 4 to 5 hours of work, maybe 6 hours of work a week. That's because of this methodology. If you write books in the traditional way, there's no way you do it in that time. No way. That's why most people, whenever they're writing traditionally, they'll tell you things like, oh, I'm giving myself Friday afternoons off to work on my book, or I work my book on Saturdays. They have to give themselves a specific day or amount of time off, because otherwise they lose their train of thought. Whereas I'm working with people who are so busy, they can't give themselves Friday afternoon off, and they can't give themselves Saturday off. So therefore they needed to have something to be able to write a book whenever they had half an hour to spare or an hour to spare. So that's what my methodology does. It's all about helping extremely busy people write these books that are sat in their heads, but they're never going to see the light of day because they can't give themselves time off to write books in a traditional way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's probably lots of people who have
I think that's most people. Pretty much everyone I speak to is like, I've been trying to write a book, but they never have time. So it's a shame, because they've got this amazing experience and advice to give the world, but it's not coming out because they're so busy. So that's the aim of it. Any other questions?
So just on going on from what Harvey said about what is the sort of ideal size.
Yeah.
Is there a size that's, so my motivation for writing my book is because of I'm in the equine world. So every time I'm going out to see clients and I'm divulging information on a one-to-one basis to another person. And what I created for my clients, because they can't take notes when they're attached to a horse, was a pamphlet. So I give them that at the end of the consultation to say, this is what I have covered, generically speaking, da 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 da, and it's got a guide for them at the back that they can reflect back to. And so I thought that's me adding value and making my point of difference from other consultants. So going on from there was then thinking, well, actually, somebody said, well, why don't you publish your pamphlet? So that's then this is why I'm thinking, okay, but I probably need to replan it, probably do a bit more in-depth stuff. But is there a minimum size when it's actually just pointless putting it out there, asking for value for money for it, in terms of, if it was an ebook or wherever it was? I mean, is there a minimum size? Or
there is again, we're back to similar. I hate tell you what, before I answer that, Katie, can I actually just show everybody how to book in a session with me, because some of these questions are actually very detailed, and it's actually best if you get on a one-to-one call with me. So this actually segs pretty pretty easy to this. So give me 2 seconds. Let me just come out of this. So let me just go back to my slides. Here we go. So All right, this is my Hall of Fame. So, small section of my Hall of Fame, I should say. So, this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for people to do. It's not just about writing a book for the sake of writing a book. It's writing a book to get your views and your ideas out into the world in a big way. So, whether that's being featured in major broadsheet papers, whether that's being featured on TV, whether that's working with specific influencers who can get you out to the biggest audience possible, that's what we're aiming for here. I just wanted to show you this one. I thought this was a really cute. Bobby's a lovely lady. She's written a book with me. She's looking to write a third book now. So as you can see, she's saying she wrote a book 20 years ago by herself. And it was a horrible experience. When she told me, it's made my experience sound pretty good. I thought I had a bad experience back in 2015. She seemed to have a worse experience. She has had the book that she wrote with me. She had that in her head for over a decade, but she hated her experience so much 20 years ago when she wrote her first book that she's just like, no, I'm not putting myself through it again. Thankfully, our paths crossed and she was able to write the book. She wrote it in about planned and wrote it in about 13 weeks and was published in 7 months of meeting me. So that's what we can do. If you want to get a book done to a professional standard and done fast, so it doesn't take over your life, then definitely have a conversation with me and let's talk. This is the route I'll take you through. This is what all my clients go through. This is the route to success. Like I said before, I don't just help people write books for their health. Okay, I'm helping people write books because they want to get a specific message out into the world. So I help you plan and write it. We have a team who are able to do the editing, design, and publishing. And we also have marketing and PR experts who can get the book out to the widest audience possible. So if you join me for a thought leader strategy session, it's in 3 parts. We look at your book ideas. That's actually what we're just going to talk about now, Katie. Your book ideas is thought leadership right for you. This is a big thing. Just because people have said, oh, you should publish it, Katie, doesn't necessarily mean that is the right topic for you to publish. So we need to really hone in on your book ideas and really figure out if this is the right book idea for you. Part 2, once we've figured that out, is we'll work out what process is going to get you there. And part 3, if the thought leader ecosystem, my program, can help, that's when I will go through things like how long it takes, how much it costs, etc., etc. And also, by the way, just for joining me on a strategy session, you'll get the chance to choose one of these amazing causes and we will donate on your behalf to thank you for joining us on a strategy session. So let me just actually show you quickly how to do that. So if you just go to, in fact, what I'll do, let me put this into the chat now so you can see it. So it should be in the chat now. But yes, this is where it will go to, and you guys have had it before, haven't you? So
have fun.
Sure. So all you have to do is just click. So as you can see, I've got a couple of sessions left tomorrow. I've got more sessions on Thursday. Friday's usually a bit more clear. So yeah, go and book yourself a session if you want to have a call, and then you just literally put in your details, put in your website. Do let me know what you do because it gives me an idea on where you'd like to be. And I also say put in your number in here because I miss emails sometimes when people are meant to go to a meeting, but I never miss my text messages. So therefore go through and just put in your details. Let me come out of here now. So excellent. Okay, so Katie, to answer your question, I'm going to do a little bit of coaching. And like I said, book on a call with me and we can go through it in a lot more detail because we don't have a huge amount of time right now. But what is the goal of your book? What do you, I mean, this pamphlet that you got at the moment seems to be doing its job in that it's giving, because a lot of people, I'm sure you speak to a lot of people and it's like, it's in one ear and out the other, you know, half an hour later, like, oh, what did that lady say to me? I've completely forgotten. So what the pamphlet does is reinforce what you said to them, which is great. What are you going to gain from publishing it?
So what my goal would be, and I know my pamphlet would need to change because it's a different format from what you would need to do it as a book when you haven't had a consultation. So I think there's 2 aims. It could be 2 books. But anyway, one, because I'm in the equine world, and the equine world, there's a lot of change. You might know nothing about horses. So if I'll speak to you as if you know nothing about horses completely. There's a lot of accepted cruelty that goes on in the equine world with the equipment that people use, bits and bridles. So that is where my business is. I go and help people fit horses with comfortable bits and bridles. So one aspect is getting the world out there that you can do this, a lot of it yourself, but also the whole knowledge base of why we should be helping riders and horses to do this ethically and holistically.
Yeah.
Is big. The second aspect, which I also end up coaching, because people don't realize this, is horses are very good leadership consultants because they mirror back their energy, your energy and your anxieties and your issues. They'll also tend to mirror back your physical issues. So if you have physical tension somewhere, the horse then starts to copy. It translates into their body.
I haven't spent much time with horses, but that's very interesting.
So a lot of behavior that you see from horses behaving badly because they're naughty is actually they're mirroring out the human anxiety, human fear,
interesting, right?
All that sort of stuff. So the other aspect is actually the leadership aspect of what we need to do as the leader in terms of calming our whole body down, being physically fit for riding, making sure we're balanced mentally and physically, and that aspect. So I do a lot of that with people as well, because I speak to people who are like nervous wrecks, sat on a horse who's then a nervous wreck, and they're trying to go, oh, why isn't it doing what it's told? So I do a lot
when
of
you're
that.
scared of a dog and the dog starts barking, so then you get even more scared of the dog. But it's because the dog senses your
exactly
fear.
So it's a circular thing. So there's the two aspects. So it is about making sure the holistic, making horses more comfortable and realizing that we don't have to do all these nasty gadgets to get them to do.
I think you kind of answered your own question. If you actually publish your pamphlet as it is, there's nothing wrong with sticking it on as an ebook. I certainly wouldn't publish it in a tangible format because I mean, how long is it? How many words is it roughly?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never counted the words.
How many is it on A4? Is it A4 or?
It's A4, and I've kept it short purposely because I think as a pamphlet people wouldn't read it if it was too long.
Won't. Yeah, and how many?
It's got more pictures than anything else.
How many pages is it?
It's about 8.
Okay, so if you publish that as a book, it'd be so thin it wouldn't be treated as a proper book. So there's no point doing that. Can you put it on as an ebook? Absolutely, why not? It doesn't really cost you anything. Well, it might cost you a little bit of money, maybe, I don't know, £50 or so, just to get an expert to format it correctly for Kindle. But then that's it, and then you've now got an asset that's going there, and you can sell it for like 99 pence or something like that, something nominal, but it's getting out to a bigger market. So there's nothing to stop you from doing that. But should that in itself be turned into a book? Absolutely no. That's why we have like 95% of the self-published stuff on Amazon is rubbish because of that, where people are just throwing anything up there and turning it into a book. However, your idea, what you've just discussed, that's very interesting. Both of them, by the way, and they probably are 2 separate books, I would say.
Okay.
But both of them are really, really good ideas. Not only do they promote you as a thought leader and an expert on this subject, both subjects, because obviously you've got the subject of, cruelty towards horses, and you've got the other subject, which is more to do with leadership and how horses reflect back the person. So I think both those absolutely should be books. But the pamphlet on its own, no, that shouldn't be a book. If you want to stick it up as an ebook, go for it. But I wouldn't bother, because you'll go through some time and expense creating the cover, and why, it's not worth it. I always say it shouldn't matter how a book looks. I would love to live in a world where content is king. And if you can say something profound in 100 words or less, why should that not be published as a book? And yet that's not how the world thinks, unfortunately. Okay. The world thinks, whether they admit it or not, if the cover doesn't look professionally done, if it's not been edited professionally, if it's not if there isn't a certain amount of heft on a book, then it's not treated as a proper book. And if it's not treated as a proper book, the content isn't taken seriously, and then the author is not taken seriously. That's not what we want. We want people to take you seriously. We want people to think, wow, this woman is an authority when it comes to horses and how we treat horses.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do a tangible publishing effort on your pamphlet. If you want to stick it up as an ebook, that doesn't cost you much. Like I said, apart from maybe £50 to get someone just to format it correctly, and then that's it. You could do that, but even then, it's a lot of people say, "Oh, I can get to a wider audience." Well, then if you want to get to a wider audience, you then stuck
Have to market
into
it.
yeah, you have to market it, or you have to start learning how to do Amazon adverts so you can get people to. Can you see what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
moving away from the main thing that you want to do, which is be around horses and people and help them. Can you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Now
totally
you're
get you.
you're creating a whole other job for yourself that you're not even wanting to do.
No, that
Yeah,
helps.
honestly,
Thank
get
you.
on the call with me and let's talk this out, because this is really, really interesting. And yeah, this is very interesting. I'm not sure at this stage which book would be best to go with first, but that's something we can discuss, because we need to. Your first book should always be a book that gives you the quickest return on investment.
Yes.
That's my goal. I always say with all of my clients, most of my clients get a return on investment from working with me within about 6 months after working with me, from 6 months after publishing.
Yeah.
Some takes a little bit longer, it may take up to 12 months before they get return on investment, but that's my goal. And then the second book, when you're making loads of money, then you can be like, yeah, whatever, then it's like, I just want to write this book because I've got loads of money and I don't really care about getting return on investment. That's a wonderful place to be in, but you can wait for your second or third book for that. But the first book should be the one that gives you an immediate return on investment, or as immediate as possible return on investment. So do get on a call with me and let's discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Harvey, was that everything? Harvey, we've had a phone call, haven't we? Was there anything more you want to discuss? If so, you can book another call if you want to clarify on a few things.
Good. Yes, definitely. I need to have a chat with you.
Well, you've got the link in the chat. Just booking another call with me, Harvey, and that's because yeah, we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and I was very interested in your book idea. So definitely.
Yeah.
I've only got a couple of minutes left because I've got another phone call in 2 minutes. David, I haven't heard from you. I hope everything was okay there. Did you learn anything from today's session, or did you need anything else from me? You're on mute, my love. I can't hear you. You can just smile at me, that'll be fine. If you want, but I would love to hear you. But if you can't unmute yourself, don't worry about it. But I hope everything's okay. I hope you got what you wanted from this session. And Alex, I haven't heard from you either. Did everything go okay there, or you're just in a place where you can't turn your camera on, you can't really speak much? I don't know whether there's an issue. Oh, David, I can hear you now, David.
I finally unmuted myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is great. I may book a call just see if we can dig in a little deeper. It was very helpful, though. Thank you.
Absolutely. Just go into the chat. The link is in there, David, and I'd love to speak to you.
Okay. Great.
Well, I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions in the chat. I don't think I have. I think I've answered everything. But I hope everyone got value from this. For the people my phone is pinging away, so I assume a couple of you have booked in. So I'm looking forward to speaking to you. And yes, we meet every Wednesday at 12 p.m. So hopefully I will see you at a future forum.
Is there a number we can contact you on?
A telephone number, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can put my telephone number on. 071. There you go.
I have to take a
that. So yeah, contact me on that. But if I don't answer straight away, it's because I'm probably on a Zoom meeting. So just leave a message, or you can find me on WhatsApp. Yeah, and leave me a message on WhatsApp. Then I can get back in touch with you.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you at a future Thought Leader Author Forum.
Amazing.
Bye for now. Bye.